What do you say? What do you know? It's the Team NBS College Football Playoff Halftime Show. I am your host, Monty Perez, aka the Sports Whisperer. All right, let's bring them on. We got two of Team NBS. Jeff and I did a show earlier this morning. Brock Vieira, how are you guys doing tonight?
Enjoying some football, trying to get a little fat in the process.
Uh, how you doing, Brock?
I'm doing good. Shocked at what I've been watching on this television, but definitely been enjoying the game so far.
I am totally shocked at what is happening here. Let's talk about, first of all, Michigan started the game off. Full disclosure, I had Michigan winning this game by 10 on my show today, and Jeff and Bill thought I was crazy. Okay, so Michigan starts the game off with a great run, and I hated the fourth and goal call. Here's the video. I'm going to say why I hated it, then you guys comment.
4th and 1 here. Michigan, are they acting confused or are they actually confused? Looks like some sort of reverse here. Oh, Philly special. Throw it. You got to throw it there. Throw the damn ball.
Okay, so one of the things as a coach that I always preach is time and score, end of game possessions. And I would tell guys all the time, if it's fourth down, you cannot take a sack. I'm literally flashing back. Throw the damn ball. Throw the ball. Jeff, let's start with you. Why would they go for trickery there? That is not what Michigan does well. They run the ball. I understand your star running back is injured, but this to me was like, we're not physical enough to either run the ball or protect our quarterback. Hated the call, Jeff.
It's a horrible call. There's no disputing it. Even if it works, sometimes bad calls work in your favor. That time it didn't. It was a horrible call. 4th and 2. If you're going to go for it, dial up one of your best 2-point plays in that situation, not a trick play. Right? It's literally a 2-point conversion. You're at the 2-yard line. So if you don't have a 2-point play that you feel comfortable in, then kick the field goal and take the points. But it was a very bad call. And people will say gutsy. It wasn't anything gutsy about it. It was crazy. It's straight up crazy. You don't run. There's no real estate to even run that play. Think about it. Right? You're trying to run it against a speed defense, and when he turns the corner to throw the ball, you can't loft it over the DB's head because the back end zone is right there. So it's just a bad call.
Jeff, the quarterback didn't even run into the end zone. It's like he didn't know what to do. And Brock, do you think he changed his mind because it was like 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, and then a great run there to get it down to the 2-yard line? What do you think of the play calling?
I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. There's no reason to do that in that scenario. The whole reason Philly special worked is because no one had ever done it before, alongside the fact that Nick Foles is not a quote-unquote athlete when it comes to the quarterback position. J.J. McCarthy is known for his legs and for his athleticism, and he obviously cut inside because there was a defender on the flat. TCU is known for running zone defenses, and most importantly, that's not what you guys do well. What you do well is running the football straight at an opponent. We saw in the first play of the game. We've seen it all throughout the season. Most importantly, what this shows and what this displays is a lack of confidence from the coaching staff in their defense. Because if you believe your defense is good enough to get stops, one, you kick the field goal, you get the point, you go up, and then you set up an opportunity to go up by 2 scores on the next possession. And more importantly, the worst thing that should have happened from that play is that they turned the ball over at the 2-yard line and stuck Max Duggan deep into his own end zone. They didn't do that. Complete failure. I'm lost for words, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and Jeff, we talked about this earlier with J.J. McCarthy, one of only two of the Power 5 quarterbacks to have 20 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Throws an interception there, a big turnover, changed the momentum. I got to be honest with you. Michigan, I thought one of the reasons why they would be so poised is Harbaugh got the proverbial monkey off his back last year by getting to the Final Four. I thought they'd be poised. I thought they would be super confident. Like Brock said, it shows they didn't show any confidence. But the quarterback looks bad. Is this he's just nervous, or is the defense doing something that he hasn't seen?
I told you one of the things that worried me about this matchup is the speed of TCU. Well, you're seeing it. They're preventing Michigan from getting to the edges in the running game. That interception, that's just a great break. That is a player with speed breaking on the football, jumping the route, and taking it to the house. So we talked about the speed and showing up in many ways. The blitzes that are coming from depth that are affecting their running game inside. The speed of this TCU team, right, is definitely a problem for Michigan. Right? They had that first drive where they were feeling each other out. They got into the red zone. Should have capitalized with the field goal there. Like I said, if you're going to run your 2-point play, you're going to go for it on 4th and 2. Run your best 2-point play. I can think of an RPO. I can think of a couple of quick throws that would have been way better in the red zone in that situation than that play call. But definitely the speed of TCU is affecting their offense. They can't seem to overpower them because the blitzes are coming and they can't seem to cut it off in time, or when they try to go outside, they're chasing down their back before he even hits the edge. There's just too much speed for them to handle. If it's going to be a game where they would have to wear this defense down for 4 quarters, but they're in a bad situation, trailing by double digits at the half.
Okay, I get what you're saying with the speed, but Brock, let's be honest. Michigan plays against speed against Ohio State. It's not like, they're playing in some mid-major conference. They're going up against elite wide receivers, elite defensive back. What has shocked you the most? You open up the show saying, I'm totally shocked. So am I. I thought Michigan was going to win by 10 to 14 points. What has been the biggest surprise so far for you?
No, I absolutely agree with that assessment of that. I also agreed that Michigan was going to win this game by 10, and now they're down by, 15 or something like that?
21-16, 21-6.
21-6, right? They haven't even gotten into the end zone. The biggest thing is that they have a scared offensive coordinator and an overconfident quarterback. Because I think we can all agree, what is J.J. McCarthy's worst throw? That's the out route. What do they call? An out route. And then obviously right to the DB's hands, pick 6, changes the whole momentum of the game. More importantly, I don't understand why they're not sticking to their bread and butter. They're clearly cooking TCU with those crossing routes. I understand Roman Wilson went out earlier, and when he was on the field, he was obviously making plays, even though McCarthy did not get enough air on it for the one that was close to the end zone. And on that play, you get the ball at the 1-yard line and you run a fullback dive with a guy that is rarely a fullback. Doesn't make any sense. In that situation, you bring in a big horse to run behind, not to run with. And that play was a complete disaster. I don't understand what Michigan's doing. They are not going with their bread and butter. They're trying to be creative. They're trying to be special as playing them in the behind. And TCU is being opportunistic. They're staying to what they know what they do well. They're sticking to it. And the product is in the pudding. That's why they're up 21-6.
Yeah, and I will say this. We saw Arkansas, right? Arkansas in a bowl game had a great defensive stop. They called targeting on the field. It was not targeting. They go review it in the booth, and they said the play stood. Now, the following day, they come back and say that was the wrong call. Jeff, I don't understand this. Everyone in the building knew that this was a touchdown. He did not have possession of the ball when he hit it. They go up to the booth. Even the ref who's broadcasting the game saying, yeah, it's going to be a touchdown. They don't call it a touchdown. And then the next play, like Brock said, Michigan fumbles the ball. Jeff, what are we doing on reviews here? If the guy upstairs who's joining the broadcasting team, who's a former referee, is saying it's a touchdown, and they say, no, it isn't, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking there. I mean, he doesn't gain possession of the football until the ball breaks the plane. That should have been a touchdown. I guess he's trying to say that the catch started when he first hit the ground at the 1-inch line. Even then, when they spotted the ball, didn't match where he caught or started to catch the ball. Yeah. So once again, I don't trust officials at any level. I've never dealt with officials at any level that make me feel totally comfortable. So this is a case of, once again, even with technology, they still get the call wrong.
Yeah, and I want to talk about TCU because Brock was mentioning it. They look so poised. They look so well coached. Listen, Max Duggan's not having a great game. 7 for 16, 89 yards, 1 interception. He's only rushed the ball for 30 yards. But with that said, it almost looks, Brock, like no matter what happens, he's in control of this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all credit to the offensive coordinator, Garrett Riley. If you look at what happened early with Max Duggan, he was throwing the ball a little bit deep, a little bit out of bounds, really wasn't on target, and the DBs from Michigan was pressing them close. Then how do they adjust to that? Well, we got to create a little bit of separation. So we run guys in motion, do a couple outside runs, zone runs, get some read option in there, really get Max Duggan moving and being able to move his platform, move it in positive direction, and just freezing the defense at the point of attack. That's exactly how they're doing it. They're just freezing the Michigan defense. And much credit to this TCU offensive line. They are holding their water. Of course, that's something we talked about is the fact that this is not the Michigan defense of last year. They don't have Aiden Hutchinson. They don't have a David Ojabo anymore. They don't really have those dogs up front that we came to love last year. What they do have is a great DB room, and thus TCU stopped attacking that DB room initially, hit them with the run first, soften them up, and then hit them after. TCU is they're adjusting. That's the big difference in this football game. They are making the adjustments where Michigan is not, and that's why they're up by the margin that they are.
All right, Jeff, give us a couple of things that if you're Harbaugh right now, you're talking to your offensive coordinator. Again, this TCU team is a very good offensive team. They only let up 14 points. They had an interception, but that's not the defense's fault. So if you're Michigan right now, what do you do at halftime? If you're Harbaugh, what do you say to get this team back? Because let's be honest, they look totally discombobulated, something I did not expect from Michigan. One thing I thought they'd be is, if anything, over-prepared, and it doesn't look like they are.
Yeah, well, you got to go back to what was working for you originally. Granted, it's a 15-point game. TCU is going to come out and get the ball right away. I'd come out, get a stop. I'm telling my offensive coordinator, go back to running the football, go back to throwing with the quick game. Do not hold the football and make this kid think, make him make mistakes. Go back to the quick game. Let's work on moving the chains, getting back to our brand of football, long drives. Let's wear this defense down, slow them down, so we can then go back to pounding the football on them and going back to our brand of football. Right now, they're trying to play TCU's game, and they're losing at it big time.
Brock, if I'm TCU right now, I continue with Miller. I continue with Duggan. I'm not trying to slow the clock down, but I'm really running the ball as much as possible because it looks like when Duggan gets out of the pocket, he's having some success, and I want to keep them off balance. Would you really try to do as many RPOs as you can against this Michigan defense?
Absolutely, and I want to keep that no huddle up-tempo offense that they had rolling because Michigan's defense clearly could not handle it. You really want to get the ball to the outside early, right? Really use Miller, pound him to the ground. He's forced to pound the defense into the ground and really get Michigan to soften up a little bit. And then you can hit them with the more finesse things, the throws to the flats, maybe try and get Johnson in a little bit more because the only time he had a real big play was when Michigan clearly just wasn't covering him. Get Duggan on the ground a little bit more. But just keep the pedal to the metal in terms of the time between plays and just see if you can get up by another score. A 3-score deficit is going to be a lot for Michigan to recover, and clearly they cannot get that in the air.
Okay, we have a special guest who I think wants to brag and talk some smack because on the show today, I'm like Michigan by 10. Bill, so good to see you again.
It is even better to see you, Monty. It is so much better to see you. And I think Michigan will come back, but I tried to tell you that nobody blows out TCU. There's not a college team in America that can blow out TCU. They're unblowoutable. I tried to explain that to you. There's not a team, not Alabama, not Georgia. I don't care who you're talking about. Nobody blows them out.
Okay,
it can't be done.
But
You
Bill,
got to beat them, but you can't blow them out.
Are you shocked at how – because let's be honest, these are self-inflicting wounds here. The fumble, the interception, the horrific – I don't know if you saw the beginning
the Wolverine special on 4th and 1.5. Yeah,
you weren't on the broadcast. I'm going to play it one more.
4th and 1 here. Michigan, are they acting confused or are they actually confused?
Hold on.
They clearly got too cute there. Yes. I mean, everyone knows that. The one advantage you have is your offensive and defensive line is bigger and stronger than the other teams. You should just be leaning and pushing in that situation. It should be 1897 football in that situation. And they decided to do the exact opposite. And clearly, in addition to it not surprising TCU, they were in zone, right? So I don't know if they were expecting them to be in man, but that play doesn't tend to work in zone.
No,
because they're not chasing, they're not following, they're just watching you, and they're just jumping on you.
Brock said earlier, I agree with the assessment because I brought it on. One of the things that Michigan likes to do is impose their will. They want to push you around. So even if you're not running it there, what are you saying to your offense that, hey, an RPO, we're not going to do that. We're not going to run it up the middle. We're not going to throw a pass. We're going to have to rely on trickery so early in the game. What are you saying to your team?
It goes against your team's personality. And that's what I'm saying. The thing that you've built your team on, the best part of your team is your offensive line. That's the best part of your entire football team. You've got a pretty good defensive line, but you've got one of the best offensive lines in college football. Better than Alabama's this year, right? It's one of the best offensive lines, period. And I'll admit I was surprised. I predicted they were going to just literally run like either a sneak or like a dive. Yeah, when I saw that play coming, I knew as soon as I saw them running what looked like a reverse, like, oh, it's going to be the Philly, their version of Philly special. I knew that's what it was going to be, and so did TCU. As soon as they saw that happen.
It was so horrible because the quarterback walked over just like they did in Philadelphia. I'm like, are they faking this on purpose or are they confused? All right, Brock, how do you see the second half happening? I'm still holding on for Joe's sake. So when he joins us at halftime of the Georgia game, he's not miserable because his Michigan team has lost 2 Final Fours now. How do you see this planning out in the second half?
I think in the locker room, Jim Harbaugh went to his offense coordinator with highlights from Michigan, Ohio State from last year. What they're going to come out and do on offense is run the ball to the outside. I would love to see the guards pull again. I don't think TCU's defensive line can handle that because they're clearly being able to handle the inside run as we speak. Obviously, TCU gets the ball initially. I expect Michigan to play a light defense on first down, come with the blitz on second down while having Contain on the outside, really try and put some pressure on Duggan or try and get that early sack and try and force a 3-and-out and therefore build that momentum. Also, what we should expect to see is some more deep passes to Roman Wilson if he's still healthy and ready to go.
You know, it's funny because I rarely see Bill as engaged when someone else talks as when you talk. So I know you guys are co-hosts. I know how much he likes you. Just watching him backstage, nodding everything he says. When I talk, Bill's like giving me the finger half the time. So,
well, but Monty, when you're right, but when you're wrong, woo!
Bill, I'm of the belief, hit a home run, man. I'm swinging. All right, Jeff, do you think Michigan comes back or is this a wrap?
They're going to be hard pressed to do so. It's not in their nature to come back from double-digit leads. I think they'll close the gap some, but I think right now they're in a lot of trouble. This is not where you just make a couple of defensive adjustments. Your offense is continually moving the football. Right now they are struggling to move the football. I know they want to get outside. They're not beating the speed of this defense to the outside. They're going to have to use their quick game on the outside. Use your tunnel screens. Use your bubble screens. Use things of that nature to hit quick on the outside to take the place of your long stretching running game that allows this fast defense to pursue. And then what you do is when you get them running all over, then you start hitting them out the middle. They need to do that instead of trying to just stretch away from a defense that runs with you. It's not going to be the strength of their offense tonight.
And by the way, Bill, I will defend myself. I don't always go with the trends, but Vegas had Michigan a 7.5-point favorite. So
I know. And I told you Vegas was wrong.
That was crazy. Yeah, you said that to say. You said this.
I remember distinctly telling you that. But here's what I'll say. I'm going to embroider on what both Brock and Jeff said. I would be using fire zone blitzes. I would be trying to present what looks like man and then be zone on the back end, but still bring an extra person in the, to try to get more pressure. Also, middle screens, right, where you block it up. So Schoonmaker or one of their big bodies on some of those middle screens, and tunnel screens too, but get that guy rambling in the secondary who's 240-something pounds and let him plow over some people. The advantage you have is bulk. You're a bigger, stronger team. Even if you have to throw the ball, you can still throw the ball in ways that impose your will on the other team, where you get to lean on them even in the run game.
Right.
So I would be using some of those 2 and 3 tight end formations where it looks like run and then you throw out of it and you just blast people, right? Sometimes you have those things where you look, you're screening to this side and you spin and throw it back to the other side. So you send someone in motion. They've got one guy, like one tight end out here, and then the other 2 are here looking like a run going to that side. And you throw to that side. You get them flowing in one direction, throw it back the other way. You might pop a big play that way. But running the ball. You're down, but you're not so far down that you can't run the ball. Keep running the ball. Draws, power run. You can still gap scheme stuff and blast guys, but don't get away from your personality. That's what's gotten them in trouble. Getting away from your team's personality. Go back to what you do well.
Okay, I'm going to preface by saying this is unfair. I know it is. But we've seen Ed Orgeron run out of LSU for a lot of off-the-season issues, but we've seen Les Miles because you watch Les Miles, and Les Miles was sending guys to the pros left and right. I think he had a 3-year window where he was sending guys to the pros and were drafted in the first round. They had more guys going than Alabama. We talked earlier on the show today, Bo Pelini winning 9 or 10 games. This is unfair. But if Jim Harbaugh doesn't win this game, okay, we'll start with you, Jeff. Our people are going to start saying, okay, he couldn't win a Super Bowl. Now he can't win a playoff game. Jim Harbaugh, I know it's unfair because he's not going to get fired, but if we saw Les Miles get run out of LSU, what happens if Ohio State wins the second game and they get to the finals and he doesn't, Jeff?
Well, that becomes the new obstacle, right? Before it was he couldn't win the Big Ten. Well, now he's won it back-to-back years. Well, the new obstacle becomes, all right, you've conquered the Big Ten. Now you got to conquer college football altogether. So if he's going into the playoffs and losing, I guarantee you after a couple more chances at this, they're going to get impatient with him.
Brock, what do you think about that? Is there a ton of pressure on him right now?
Not at all. When you look at the Les Miles, Ed Orgeron, and Jim Harbaugh situations, all completely different. Les Miles had a string of years before he got fired where LSU was absolutely horrible. Look at the quarterback situation those final years, and that's almost a nightmare in itself. Ed Orgeron was already on the hot seat before he even took over on the job. They really didn't like him. People were talking about firing him the year before the national championship game, even so much that they had Dave Aranda on a separate contract so that they could fire Ed Orgeron and keep Aranda. So Michigan, Jim Harbaugh is a son of Michigan. And if they hadn't fired him up to this point from last year, right, because he had those 5-6 years where he couldn't even win against Ohio State, they're definitely not going to fire him this year. This string of success is the best Michigan has had since probably Lloyd Carr. They have back-to-back wins over Ohio State, back-to-back Big Ten championships. They're definitely going to stick with him for a couple more years. I see no reason they're going to fire him.
We saw this. They were talking about firing Bill Self at Kansas before he won a national title.
Look, fan is short for fanatic. We get reminded that.
Now he's got Clay Williams, who was the prodigal son.
Yeah. Well, once again, we get reminded that fan is short for fanatic every now and again. He's one of the safer coaches in college football, and they wisely have stuck by him. If they continue to let him do what he's doing, they eventually will play for a national championship. Will they win it? We'll see. But you're seeing the whole speed situation. When they play SEC schools, when they play Big 12 schools, and probably even some of the ACC schools, the difference in speed is revealed, right? So that's the next hill to climb, to be able to maintain that power that you have on your offensive and defensive line, but add speed in your secondary, add speed in your wide receiver group and your linebacker group so that you can run with some of these teams from some of the more speed-focused conferences. But he's clearly the right man for the job. If they fire him, they know what happens, right? They moved on from Lloyd Carr, and then they got a face full of like Rich Rodriguez. So I think they maybe have learned their lesson.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying he's going to get fired. I'm just saying it's so unfortunate because as great of a coach Mike Krzyzewski was, how many times did he get to the Final Four and not win it? And people are like, oh, he can't win the big game. So it is unfortunate that this is now the label if he doesn't win. I hope they come back just because, like I said, I don't want Joe Cardozo to be miserable for the second half of the Georgia. Real quick, who wins Georgia, Ohio State? Brock, you start. We got about a minute left.
Gotcha. I have Georgia winning by 6. The run game is too strong. That defense will be stout.
Okay. Jeff.
I'm going to go Georgia. I think overall that defense is going to give them enough problems where they'll contain Ohio State. They'll get on the board. They'll score. I think Georgia scores a little bit more.
And, Bill, you have Georgia, correct?
Yeah, and I think it's once again a one-score game, somewhere in that 7 range. Like I said, like 27 to 23, 27 to 20, or maybe 20 to 13, that kind of thing. I think it's a lower scoring game than this game.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back at halftime of the Georgia-Ohio State game. Enjoy the second half. And I'm just letting you know, Bill, I will be nonstop DMing you if Michigan comes back and wins this game.
You should. If Michigan comes back and wins this game, you should nonstop. But once again, I just predicted they wouldn't cover. So they have to win by at least 7.5. So good luck on that, Bud.
Yeah, that's not happening. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Really appreciate the time. And we'll see you at halftime. Remember, give us the like, subscribe to the Team NBS YouTube channel. We'll see you at halftime of the Georgia-Ohio State game.